Hello, everyone. This is not Britain's Hanging Hour, but welcome back to the channel. And today I am here with Joe Berne. How you doing, Joe?
I'm good. How you doing, Britton?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. And Amanda from the Strange Mentality paper, also the Dusty
Hello.
Skeptic, which you started earlier,
Yes, the Dusty Skeptic. New channel.
which you
New
started
channel.
recently. How are you
Yeah,
doing,
like
Amanda?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Well, yeah, actually doing pretty good considering the car wreck and the moving and all that. Doing well.
Yeah, it's oh man, I was just mentioning this before we got on. I was like, oh man, are we ever even gonna do this? 'Cause
Still wanted to,
st- stuff
but
uh
yeah,
stuff kept getting in the way. Like, oh man, but we're here. It's
Well,
Joe.
yeah,
it was like 2 months ago or 3 months ago we started trying.
yeah,
It's a long
I
time.
got the first delay was I think I got bronchitis and I got a sinus infection that turned into bronchitis, and
Ugh.
I
Not
was
fun.
yeah, cause and I I was like 2 steps away from pneumonia when I finally went back into the doctor. So I was
Jeez.
pretty sick. Yeah,
It's
I was
not
pretty
fun.
sick. No, it was not.
I had
But
pneumonia a
yeah,
long time ago.
I don't think I've ever had pneumonia. My brother did when he was a baby. But yeah, so just got bronchitis, and then I think we just stepped away from it from a while. And then finally the other day, I was like, hey, I still want to do this. And I got
Yeah.
tons of free time. I was
Yeah.
like, don't have a car, not going anywhere.
Yeah, I was basically yeah, I was
Summer,
yeah,
you know,
I was just kind of sitting around. She's like, "You want to still do this?" I'm like, "Yeah." Are you busy? She's like, "No." So here we are.
I'm not busy till August 5th, as far as I know.
But
Because
yes, today we are talking about a subject. Well, we're talking about the differences between traditional publishing, and self-publishing, because there has
Joe,
been.
did you move your bookshelf? Sorry, Britton. I just
Oh,
noticed that Joe's bookshelves are empty.
yeah, he does have.
You moving, Joe?
I just moved in. I've been in this house
Oh,
for since Monday.
nice. Yeah, mine are
So
empty too.
yeah. So I have lots of books in other places that will slowly get packed on the shelves, but not yet.
But yeah, I thought,
You guys
because
both just froze for me.
it's sort of a would I say this is a contentious subject, kind of, a little bit.
Britton, I heard none of that. Y'all guys froze on my end.
Oh
So
dear.
you
I
were
hear
not
you.
even talking. Yeah, you were not even talking when it froze.
I
Oh,
hear both of you.
can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yes,
Oh,
that's why I
okay.
interrupted you.
Jeez, Amanda.
Sorry.
Rude. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, this is a bit of a subject that's gained some controversy, I guess, on our side of the internet anyway. But I think it's an interesting subject to talk about, because I think it should be talked about. That probably doesn't that probably didn't come out. That didn't come out the way I wanted it to, but here we are. But yeah. Uh, you guys kind of asked me if this was like a debate, and I was like, no, it's more like a Socratic dialogue where we can just kind of sit here and discuss ideas and see where we kind of go from here. Um, but yeah, we're talking about traditional publishing and self-publishing today, because self-pub is starting to get bigger. It's not just vanity projects anymore. Like, there's people who are actually I mean, I'm sure they still exist, but there's people telling actual stories and stuff, and want to be taken seriously, and it's become kind of a thing.
There have
We
been
got
people making real money from self-pub for just over 10 years. It
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
started with the Kindle.
It
It really started with
started.
the Kindle.
So Andy, with what? With the
The
Kindle?
Kindle.
I was gonna say Andy Weir was kind of the one who projected it. From what I was it
There
before that? Because The Martian was the one that seemed like it kind of exploded and then got picked up and turned into a
The
bestseller.
Martian was one of the first things to reach like popular, where like
Yeah.
people who read newspapers would have heard of it, right? But people were making big money in self pub starting at least in 2012, and The Martian
Yeah.
was
2014.
okay,
So you said 10 years ago. That's 10 years.
a little more than 10 years. Yeah, well, because of the Kindle, because before that, the only way to self pub, you really had to like go print out like thousands of copies,
Aragon.
put them in the trunk of your car, you know, You'd hand sell them. That you could make some money doing that, but you weren't making like big money. You weren't making a big impact. Once you had the Kindle, any schmuck could release a digital book that could reach potentially very wide distribution. And then you had people making 7-figure incomes. Not a lot of people, but people. So it's a really new thing.
The oldest one I could think of is Aragon, and he wrote it when he was a child, but he was also homeschooled, so he had the time. So yeah.
And they were hand selling that at like cons and stuff, I believe.
They were.
And then it got picked up by a traditional publisher, which was a way to go. I don't think he could have sold like 1 million copies out of the trunk of his car. That's the thing.
Definitely not.
So he needed a trade deal when I don't know when Aragon came out, but I remember reading it.
I think the movie came out in 2006.
Okay, so this is older,
Yeah, it's pretty old.
Yeah.
But even Joe here, who wrote Wistful Ascending and The Hybrid Helix. I read Wistful Ascending. It's pretty good. I liked it. So yeah, I guess I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. Joe's next to me here. I don't know what it's looking like on your guys'.
No, I'm under you, Britton, on my screen.
So I'll let Joe go first, because he's right next to me on the screen. So Joe, what do you do?
What do I do? Ooh.
Well, I mean, okay, like
I read software for the financial industry, which has nothing to do with what we're talking about today. But I am
your creative pursuits.
I am a self-published author. I have 5 books that you can buy on Amazon today, and I can ship them to India, which I just found out. I sent 4 books to India. It was very exciting. And so I know a little bit about self-publishing, and I know about ways you can go about it. I don't know all the ways you can go about it. I don't know all the ins and outs, but I know some of the ins and outs. So I'll say that. I'll limits of my knowledge.
Fair
That's
enough.
Me. Yes.
Now Amanda here. You can. What do you do? Like.
Well.
Introduce yourself.
First, well, for day job, I'm a teacher. I've been writing pretty seriously since like 2011. I still consider myself first and foremost a screenwriter, even though I've sort of stepped away from that and mostly write prose. But definitely my expertise is in screenwriting. And then next I'd say would be short prose, so like short stories, short memoirs. And then a step below that would be fiction. And I am traditionally published through literary magazines, short stories. That's where and how you publish. You guys just died again. But that's where and how you publish your short fiction is through places like Bright Flash, the New Yorker, the Yale Review, the Iowa Review, stuff like that. So that's typically where short stories go, and it's a really good place to go before you publish your novel, because a lot of literary magazines, I'm going to call them lit mags, a lot of lit mags like kind of pride themselves on discovering new authors. If you look at the New Yorker, they take pretty much all the credit for Gino Diaz's success. But I teach English and creative writing. My bachelor's degree is in creative writing. I have a master's in education. So writer first, teacher second, YouTuber third. And I'm from Strange Mentality Paper YouTube. And I also started a new channel kind of focused on debunking the paranormal, which I also do book reviews on that one. And I use it interchangeably. So there will be a book review coming out that was primarily made for The Dusty Skeptic, which is my channel, but it will also be on Strange Mentality Paper. I've put some screen recordings on there too. So I'm in both places. And I've been published through Bright Flash, which is one of my favorite magazines because it only publishes flash fiction, which is under 1,000 words. And I was published through Suspension, Mocking Owl Roost, and Calopsia. I can't even say it. So yeah, all shorts, no poetry. I am not a poet.
Fair enough. I was about to say.
And I'm on. Oh, I forgot to say this. I'm on sub for a novel.
Oh
on
yeah, I
submission.
saw you. I've been seeing you promoting that on your Twitter.
Yes, I just got rejected from one agent, but she doesn't take on anything with sexual assault. So I guess she didn't know sexual assault was in there when she requested. And then I'm on sub for 2 more agents, so waiting for them to read.
All right, yeah. I but yeah. All right. I guess we should get started. I guess I shouldn't stall for too much longer because I mean I decided to have you two here because I know you all have like I didn't know if I would be partial enough to just talk about it with Amanda, to be honest with you. So yeah, because she's because we because I wrote something recently, and me and Amanda kind of get into discussions about what I should do with it, and yeah, here we are.
Yep.
But yeah, I guess the first question I'll ask here, and that is, what are the differences between self-pub and trad-pub books? Which I know that's a very I guess that's not very specific, but if any of you want to
Why
chime.
don't why don't we just, instead of like having a each one of us do like differences, why don't you just describe self-publishing, what it is, and then I'll do TradPub, and then
All right,
that
that's
way
fine.
we've got one of each, the experts on each one.
I mean, fundamentally, anyone can self-publish any text. So it's harder to explain without comparing it to TradePub, but basically self-pub can be anything, which is not true of TradePub, right? So you can, anyone can write a book and put it on Amazon for very little cost. So the barriers to entry are zero. So so you'll find there are self-published books that are truly awful in ways that you will never find in a bookstore, like just rife with whatever level of like very basic spelling errors and grammatical errors. But you will also find that just as you can find that, you can find other people who have written books that have been very carefully edited and crafted with great skill and great care to be really good. The fact that it exists on Amazon is not a guarantee of a decent sort of minimal level of basic quality, which probably not really true at TradePub. If you go to Barnes and Noble and you go to the science fiction section, you pick up a book, it's almost definitely going to have like pretty good writing, pretty high, pretty decent standard. It's not going to be rife with, you'll have typos in it, but you won't have a typo on every paragraph, right? So, I guess that's the big thing. Self-pub's a place where people who write stuff that TradePub isn't interested in for a variety of reasons, based on who the author is, based on the themes they're tackling, based on the subjects, based on what TradePub believes will sell, they can go into its self-pub. And that's how we have entire genres like lit RPG, which wouldn't exist without self-pub. I
You
don't
guys
know.
both froze again.
All right.
Sorry.
Sorry, I think it must be my internet. I don't know if you can hear me right now.
No,
Now you're
No, we can hear you.
I
buffering.
hear you. We hear you.
Okay, yeah, I just heard myself echo. Okay. So
So
last thing I heard was lit RPG would not exist without self-pub.
that's the last thing I said.
Nice. Okay. So
What is
there are a lot of,
what is trad pub to you, Amanda?
well, it's actually, I mean, there's a definition for it. Traditional publishing is put out by a publishing house.
Mm-hmm.
That is what they do. The agents sell, or try to sell at least, manuscripts that they've picked up from authors. So the agent's job is to sell. And then the publisher, the job is to literally put the book together, what it looks like, and get it into bookstores. And then there's also independent publishers, which a lot of people will lump in with indie. People call self-publishing indie now. Independent publishing houses do not put out indie books. That's a big misconception. That is not true. So it's independent publishers are still a press. So the Iowa Review has like university presses are a good example of independent presses. Obviously, they publish more like academic stuff. They're just not put out by the big four. So that's what an independent press really means, is it's not the big four, but it's not the same as self-publishing. So traditional publishing, first thing is you gotta have an agent. So that's your first barrier. You write. Once you get it down, you edit, do all the whole process thing. Then you write what's called a query letter, which is where you send to agents, and normally on their website, they will say, we want the first 10 pages of your manuscript, or we want the first 3 chapters, or we want your query letter, your full synopsis, spoilers and all, and first 10 pages. It really depends. Honestly, one of the main reasons people are continuously rejected from agents is because they don't follow the guidelines. The second reason would be that their query letter is bad. So what a query letter is you start out, you say hi, and then you're kind of supposed to like ingratiate the agent a little bit, say, you know, I love your work, and show that you've done some research on them. So, you know, I think my novel would be a good fit for you to try to get into publishing houses or something because of your recent sell of like Wayward Women or whatever. I just chose that one. And then what you do is you give them a blurb, which is not full spoilers. It's what you can find on the back of a paperback or inside the flap. So just structure it that way. Then you tell them a little bit about who you are, mention your other publications, you say goodbye, and then if they've asked for it, you need to put the synopsis and the pages they asked for in the body of the email. Do not put them in an attachment. They won't open the attachment. It is an auto reject. So there are a lot of steps. And then you get to wait some more once you get an agent, because your agent has to sell it. Has to. We saw, I'm going to name drop here, Philip Chase. His agent could not sell his I don't know, trilogy. There we go. His agent could not sell his trilogy. So he self-published it, and I've only read the first one, but I really, really liked it. It did take me a while to get through it. But yeah, so the first hurdle in traditional publishing is definitely getting an agent. But a good way to get into, like, just to kind of get your foot in the door and build some credentials with traditional publishing is literary magazines, and they only take short work most of the time.
Building the street cred, as the kids like to say.
Definitely. And if you're going to submit to Lit Mags, be sure you read the guidelines, because some places won't take over 5,000 words, and some of them do pay, some of them don't. So there you go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you know, it's yeah, it sounds about right. I mean, I know it's I guess a little mini question to kind of
sorry, my hammer's flopping.
Why do you think again, you can say whatever you want, but why do you think self-pub has started to kind of grow in traction? Well, aside from the obvious, like, you know, cool stuff you can do.
BookTube.
Well, yeah.
Book blogs, Twitter, all that. The Kindle, like Joe said.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Joe? You write independent or self-pub books.
If you are looking for certain kinds of books, so here's the thing: the editorial teams at the major publishers. I'm talking about. I'm going to speak only to science fiction, fantasy. I don't know anything about anything else.
Okay.
But the editorial teams at the major publishers
you guys died on me again.
So the editorial teams at the major publishers have tastes, right? There are things that they are looking for. There are things that they think will sell, and there are readers, many readers whose tastes do not match those people, right? I'm not saying that Tor is the same as Orbit, but Tor has its style. Orbit has a style. Gallant has a style of kinds of books they're looking for. So if you're a reader. I'm sorry?
I said Del Rey.
Sure. Each, I mean, they're not exactly the same, right? Like, I couldn't tell you exactly the differences, but you can sort of get a feel for it. Just look at their releases, like every month. You go through their release books. You can read the synopses, and you'll tell Tor really likes stuff by non-traditionally underrepresented authors, right? Just for an example, which is great. I'm not against that. I'm not saying they don't have a right to do that. I'm not saying they're wrong to do that. But if you are a reader and you are looking for something a little bit different that doesn't meet those specific desires of those editorial teams, you don't have a choice but to go to self-pub. I'll give you a really good example, and it's not what I write, which is like military sci-fi. Baen does some of it, but if you really want to just crunch down into like Space Marines killing bugs, if that's what you like to read, you're not going to get a steady diet of that from Tor and Orbit. There are books like that they might publish, but not that many. If you really like crunching down on those books, you have nowhere else to go. If you really like lit RPG, what are the major publishers? It's like one lit RPG coming out soon. I think they just picked up Dungeon Crawler Carl. But if you're really into that genre, you might want to read a book a week or 2 books a week. You just can't. You can't get that from the major publishers. They're not interested in that, or they haven't been. Maybe they will be now, but they haven't been. So you don't have a choice. If you want a story like Wistful Ascending, you're not going to find my type of book published by any of the major publishing houses. They would know there would no one's writing, none of them are publishing semi-serious superhero stories. It's just, I've looked, right? Like I've looked for comps and there just aren't any, right? So when you look for comps,
like Brandon Sanderson, maybe you could do it.
Yeah, but if you look for comps and there aren't any, that tells you something, right? It doesn't tell you that what I'm doing isn't spectacularly original. It's just not what's coming out from the major publishers. So if you want to, and there are people, some people, I'm not saying a majority of people, but there are people who really like what I'm writing. If they want to read that stuff, they have to go to a self-published author because it doesn't exist in trade.
What I'll say quickly is that I wouldn't say it's the type of stories so much they're looking for. Obviously, there's like things that come in vogue, things that come out. We're seeing so much romantasy nowadays, like dark romance. Obviously, that's what's in. 10 years ago, it was epic fantasy, probably because of Game of Thrones. But instead of your catch-all term books, I would say writing. There's certain writings they look for, not necessarily stories or characters or tropes or anything, because you can go outside that, but as long as you sort of write in the way that they consider professional, you probably will have success, but it's going to take forever. A good example, because I'm on the historical fiction side, traditionally, historical fiction does terribly in YA. But we've got Rita Sepetys right now who's releasing banger after banger because I guess her works were good enough, and her books do read like other YA books like Patron Saints of Nothing or, I don't know, Fault in Our Stars, I guess, but it's historical. So it's more, I don't want to say the style, I don't want to say style, but it's more of the form. And nowadays agents and publishers like voicey characters, because for them voice, which is true to some extent, I can say as a teacher, voice is something that can't really be taught. It is a little bit more innate. Some people have a better ear for dialogue and the way people think than others do. But right now, that is what's in vogue. And if you're writing something like you talked about lit RPGs and stuff like that, I have a few on Kindle Unlimited. I'll read them eventually, but I'm losing my train of thought. Shoot. Oh, but literary fiction is one that they're pretty particular about, but there's like no money in. It's really hard to publish a literary fiction novel, which is a novel that is released for its literary merit. No one's going to read it, really. I mean, it may be taught in classrooms, but there's no money in it. So it definitely is, it's like fashion. You're in or you're out. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen. But you have to wait years in some cases. It took me, I didn't get published in Bright Flash, and I had been submitting to literary magazines for a year and a half. So it takes time.
Yeah, I've heard stories from authors I enjoy talking about how they've been rejected. Like, God,
it feels like more than it is.
Obscene amount of times.
Oh yeah, it feels like a few months ago. I don't want to
go into it because I don't know if you guys would believe me.
No, I would, but
Amanda
it feels at this point that I've gotten 1,000 rejections, and I recently just counted less than 50.
Oh my
So
God.
it feels like thousands when you're getting them over and over and over again, but it's not as many as you would think.
I
But
mean, if you want,
there are times where it gets up to hundreds, 500s, all that.
I mean,
Go
if you
ahead, Joe.
want, yeah, if you want details from the science fiction fantasy world, the best resource I found is the podcast called Publishing Rodeo, whose hosts are both traditionally published, Sunyi Dean and I should remember the guy's name, but I don't, Scott something. And they both have tour contracts. They both debuted in the same year. She got a really big deal and a big release and is very popular. He much less so. And they talk numbers and they talk exactly like they talk guests who are published authors, mostly with trade contracts, and they'll go into specifics like for how long were you querying, how many rejections did you get, what was your first advance. So if anyone's curious about these details, I can give you like, you can hear hearsay from us, but you can also listen to that podcast. They will talk to people about the specifics and give their own specifics.
One thing we haven't mentioned, Joe, that you just mentioned is the advance. I should have said this when I was explaining traditionally publishing. You get paid up front when your agent sells it. You should never have to pay to publish a book. You should never have to pay an agent. They get it on commission. And the average advance, I think, is like $4,000. It depends. But you get that money. They use that money. You don't make royalties until your book makes back that money. And so the advance is basically all the money that a self-published author would probably spend getting their book produced. So, I mean, I don't know. That's just kind of how I describe it. I don't know. They pay you an advance for what they think you're worth, and then when you start selling, that's when but you have to sell back the advance.
If you're traditionally published, you basically don't have to pay anything except the license fee for Microsoft Word, right? And you need a computer, and everything else should nothing else should come out of your pocket. Sometimes people will hire an editor before querying. That is not even recommended. It happens. My understanding is it's sort of unusual, but you can do it. Self-pub, depending on the quality of the book you want to release, everything is out of your pocket. No one is paying for your cover, right? It is not abnormal. I made business mistakes that made it cost more than it could have. If I knew everything I know now, my books would still cost something like $10,000, $11,000 to produce. Yeah. That means that's how much I have to pay out of pocket before I get a single sale. And you have to, as you're a self-published author, you have to realize it's a very realistic chance you will never make that back, let alone make a profit. So if someone gets a traditional contract and they get an advance of $4,000, that's not compared to me having made $4,000 on my books. That's at me having made $14,000, $15,000 selling books on Amazon to equal that revenue to me. So that is a barrier of entry for self-pub, that if you want like a nice cover, if you can figure out how to make it yourself, great. But if you want to hire someone to do it, if you want editing and you don't have just friends who can edit for you, which is doesn't always work well.
English teachers.
Yeah. But like a good, I have not found people who are good at editing who will do it for free. Like correcting your grammar is one thing, but it's real work, right? So you have to pay for that. So there's two things, right? There's the barrier of entry. There's no barrier of entry in that if you're a person of color, if you're writing about themes that aren't popular with the people in the editorial rooms, you can still self-publish. But if you're broke, it's much harder, right? So the financial barrier exists in self-publishing and not in trade. It's kind of flipped. Yeah. And it's unfortunate. I feel bad for people who are like, well, because I can afford to plump down $11,000 to release a book, and if I never see that money back, I'm like, I'm bummed, but I'm not like eating cat food, right? But I know a lot of people who can't. They don't have that money. They can't afford to risk that money on something like that without risking not being able to make a mortgage payment, which is, no one needs
that. And that 11, 15, what you're saying, that is not an average advance either. That's a lot of money that you will get up front for a publisher if you get that much. Like I don't want to say meager, but if you're a teacher, $4,000 in your pocket just for something you wrote, that makes a difference. But you guys froze again.
Sorry.
But yeah, advances normally are not that big. They're pretty small.
But but yes, the average might be fourth up, but it really varies,
Yeah,
right? If you're
it
the
does.
hot new writer, you can also. I
Oh,
mean, Sunya Dean got a $300,000 for 3 books, so I think she
yeah.
gets 100 at a time. She has said this on her podcast. I'm not revealing. I don't know her. I just
Okay.
she's podcasted this, but
You should know
that
I'm
is
also
not.
speaking in terms of a debut.
She's a debut.
She's a debut. Cool.
That was her debut contract. Yeah, yeah, and
Ooh.
she. If you get the book that people think is going to be the hot thing, you're in a very different position than the midlisters of places like Tor, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure Brandon Sanderson, I always use him as the example, which is stupid, but I'm sure the advance he gets for his next book, it's got to be a tremendous amount of money, right? Because they know it's going to sell. Like they can what do you want, right? But midlisters at Tor are lucky to get 10, and Tor is one of the biggest SFF publishers. They might be getting 10 per book, something like that. I hear that a lot. I hear 10 in advance, but
You hear
10,000
10,
in advance is way better than what I'm getting, which is negative 11.
Yeah.
You don't get anything back?
We're from different worlds too, Joe. You're SFF. I'm historical fiction, which let's just say, I want to go ahead and say those two are pretty similar, but they do exist in different worlds in the publishing.
Yes.
If you like hisfic, if you like fantasy, you'll like them both ways. We'll put it that way. At least I think so.
Yeah, I was about to say you like fantasy, Amanda. We've talked about
I love
fantasy
it.
a little bit.
Yeah, it's my second favorite genre, and then my third favorite genre is YA, if we can call that a genre, which is a friggin' problem. YA should not be in the top 3 for a 30-year-old woman. Let's just say.
Yeah, you like what you like, Amanda. That's
What you like. Fine.
Yeah.
Don't shame yourself. I mean, if you're reading like Fourth Wing, no, I'm kidding. But no,
I haven't read it yet.
No, but those are good points. But really, Joe, you don't get anything back, like at all.
I mean, I make money every month, but I am not.
Oh, okay.
I am not particularly close to having made back what I've spent.
Oh, okay. I was
like last year, I think I was at negative 9,000 for the year. I released a couple books. If I count up all my expenses for the year, because I did my taxes, and if you count up all the revenue I made, no, negative five. I made $9,000 off sales, but I spent 14. That's negative 5. So yeah, that was my year. That was 2023, and I'm on track to be worse this year. Like lose more money this year, I think. I mean, you never really know how things are going to turn out. So I'm releasing a couple books. I might get some bumps, but most likely I'm going to lose more.
One thing too I want to add to that, Joe, is when it comes to being a very, very successful self-published author, we'll say like Ryan Cahill, for example, he's part of the 1%, but there's also like romance writers who write, I almost said disgusting, but dirty romances that should not happen in real life. You have to be really prolific.
Like toxic romance or like just smut?
Yes. No, toxic romance.
Oh, okay.
Like teacher student in a good light. It's disgusting. That's why I said disgusting. I was like, I don't want to kink shame, but yeah, it's gross. Anyway, you like a good way to sort of, from what I've heard from self-published authors, is you gotta get them out quickly, which is another thing, Joe, that can be good for readers, I guess, is you don't have to wait what feels like an arbitrary amount of time for the sequels. Like Philip released his all in 1 year. Yeah. So it's just whenever you can put them out. So yeah, that's another pro for self-publishing.
He pulled a Southern Reach, as I like to say. Just put them all out in the same year. But I don't think Amanda would know what I'm talking about, so I won't say. Well, you were talking about quality, and I guess that leads to my next question, which is actually something I've been kind of talking about with other self-pub authors recently, because I've started having them on my podcast and, hanging out with them and talking to them and, hearing their thoughts and feelings about about the world and their trade. But I think it's an interesting topic to talk about. But are there differences in quality between self-pub and trad pub books? Because I've heard a lot of different points about this. I've heard some people say no. I've heard people say Yes, but it doesn't really matter. And then I've heard people who are like pretty hardline, like, yes, there are. Like,
There doesn't have to be.
no, I mean
But you will
like,
definitely find more just total crap. Like,
and what I mean is
the
like writing
self-publishing world is just
quality.
more
Oh, sorry.
saturated with amateur writing and terrible writing. But that's not to say that like uh, there isn't objectively well-written self-published books, and there aren't objectively poorly written traditionally published books. Like there doesn't have to be. And so in that, I would say, not really.
No, I guess what I'm going at is like just in terms of like writing quality and.
Look, there are no gatekeepers in self pub.
Oh, okay, okay.
There
So
we
you
go.
got you have to imagine like
Hmm?
there might be like 10 or I have no idea what the number is. There might be
Yeah,
50,000 self pub published books released every year. If you could,
probably more.
I made up a number. I honestly
Yeah,
have
yeah,
no
yeah,
idea, but I'm just saying it's
yeah.
an arbitrary. It's more than you could ever read. I just mean in
Yeah.
science fiction and fantasy. I forget
Okay.
all together. It's even more. If you count like
Oh
stuff
yeah.
without real content, I'm sure it's enormous, right? So if you could somehow stack them all up in terms of quality, and you know, roughly speaking, writing quality, and like make like an order and put them all like out on your lawn, right? The ones at the low end of the self pub spectrum are going to be truly awful in a way that probably nothing from trade really is. If you randomly pick a book off Amazon and just like, never heard of this guy, I'm going to read this book, don't do that, right? It's going to be very, your chance of being disappointed are very high because there are no gatekeepers, right? Like my 12-year-old can publish a book and he can make it terrible. My 12-year-old's not a good writer. He's not a gifted genius writer. Uh, you
What
know,
you're calling gatekeepers, I normally call standard of excellence.
but they're doing both.
Yeah.
Right, the
Yeah,
gatekeepers are doing both. They're both checking for making sort of quality checks. They're also screening out books on it for a number of other reasons that have nothing to do
right.
with writing quality. So they're doing
There you go.
both at the same time, right? There's two different
Yep.
functions for the same set of people. But I mean both the agents and the acquiring editors are
Yep.
both,
You're right.
you know, because there's things they don't think they can sell. And if they come across something that's well written that they don't think will sell, they're not really going to get very excited about the project. So
No. It's the same with agents. Like they're
yeah,
like, I don't think I
yeah,
love this, but I don't think I can
yeah,
sell it.
yeah,
You know, I don't
yeah.
have the connections type thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I wonder sometimes if you could find an agent and be like, you know, like what's the best book you couldn't sell and like make like a collection of like the best books they
Yeah.
couldn't sell and like release them
Yeah.
all somehow some other way
That'd
or
be cool.
something, right?
That'd be cool.
Because you
Yeah.
know they have read some gems in their opinions that they just knew they couldn't
Yep.
get through an acquiring editor, so they dump them.
Exactly.
That's their job. I'm not hating on agents. But my point is, the best self-published books can be just as good as we hire editors. We put them through workshops. We do the same work that sometimes the same editors, right? I Partial Function had the same editor as Art of Prophecy by Wesley Chu, which was trade released. We had the same person do the work for those books. I'm not saying my book was as good. That's not for me to say, but overall, you will the average. I don't know what the average is. The best self-published books are as good as the best trade books, but the worst are probably much worse. I said that in way too many words. I apologize.
No.
Well, your last one summed it up really, really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I mean, what I mean by quality, I mean, I do mean like the form, you know. I mean, I guess not. Or it can be prose or editing or how it's put together, because you know I've heard a lot of self-pub authors who I've talked with and other people who I've talked with are like, well, the fun thing about self-pub, and this is true, I'm not saying they're wrong, is like the creativity. You can kind of just, you know, lay it all out there, and which is, you know, fine. But I do think that, like, I do, as some people like to say, I do think the form matters, and if you want to, like, get something out there.
But some self-pub writers are caring about the form as much as you do, and some don't.
Sure, yeah, and
that's
everybody. Everyone's different.
Yeah, but everyone in trade cares about the form to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But there's some self-pub writers who don't. I think that's fundamentally the difference. So if you care about that, if you care about like, if like a bunch of typos would really bother you, you need to screen which self-pub writers you are reading, because some of them will aggravate the crap out of you. You need to know who you are as a reader.
Yeah, like I mean, I've read some. I remember I told Amanda about this. I mean, I remember reading like just it was an Amazon sample, so it wasn't like the whole thing, but I read it and I remember just being like, oh my god, the dialogue in this is not good. It's just oh god, and you know some. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna there's trad pub books that are bad too. I mean, I won't go into that, but
you guys froze.
But yeah, I think it's something that needs to be talked about if self-pub, because kind of from what I've seen of it anyway so far, maybe it's just my perception, I don't know, but self-pub is sort of on this kind of uphill battle to be kind of taken seriously and not be like, oh, it's this cute little thing people are doing. I'm like, I think you have to talk about it if you're gonna want to be taken seriously.
What I want to say here is,
if that makes sense, by the way,
it does make sense. It makes sense to me. I'm not sure if it makes sense to the audience as much, but it does make sense to me.
Okay, good.
We know that movie Spotlight, right?
Yeah, I know what it is.
No, you don't. It's about the investigative journalists at the Boston Globe in 2001, 2002, who uncovered all those priests raping all those kids. 90 priests in Boston, so a total of like 6% of all priests act out sexually with minors. That came out in 2002. A couple years before, there was a newspaper called The Phoenix that published a story about it. Pretty much exact same story. But nobody read it because they didn't have the power. They didn't have the readers. They didn't have the money. The Boston Globe did. So for me, that's a really good reason as to why you're publishing, where you publish matters. What you do with your writing matters. Because in that year, how many more children were probably raped? Probably a lot. Yeah. And if it had been, if it had gotten out sooner in a different way, I mean, I'm going to say thousands of children probably could have been saved, because that's how bad the epidemic of sexual abuse was at that time in Boston.
So are you saying this is like an analogy to like what we're talking about here? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I don't care what people read. I've always said this. I don't care what people read, but because I am a creative writing teacher, I care what you do with your writing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's the big thing for me is I don't want people to take something they've worked so hard on, something they loved so much, and kind of just throw it into the abyss, throw it away. I've seen that happen to a decent number of people. And I actually ran into that at AWP. This one woman self-published a lot of her stories, and now she can't submit them to lit mags anymore because they've already been published. Yeah. But you never know who or what your writing's going to impact. So that's why I think you should care about what you do with it. I'm not saying self-publishing people don't necessarily care. I'm just saying that where you publish matters.
Okay. Joe, do you have any thoughts on this?
I mean, a man is not wrong. Where you publish matters, right? But if you are, if you're trying to publish like literary stuff, yeah, it probably makes a lot more sense. I don't know where you're going to find your audience for that. Probably reading literary magazines. That's probably where you need to go to reach the people who like that stuff. But if you're like Carl Dinneman, right, who wrote Dungeon Crawler Carl. I forget the author's name. I think it's Dinneman.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I just know people love them, and I need to read them eventually.
Yeah, I've never read them. I just know that they're super popular. But like,
he randomly followed me on Twitter.
That's amazing. Jenny Wirtz followed me. It made my whole week. It's like the high point of my week.
Yeah.
but like, if he, you know, he has managed to acquire a massive audience as a self-published author. Now he's got a trade deal, but he didn't start with that.
No.
And he didn't start off going for that, right? He was just like, I'll release these and make a ton of money. And if
Wasn't
he
it a
had
web
waited,
serial?
I could be wrong. I don't know that it was. I only know of it as the books. It might have like a Royal Road thing. Wandering In was Royal Road. I don't think Dungeon Crawl Carl was, but I'm not positive.
Okay.
But it was self pub regardless, right? That's still a self pub. But you know, if he had waited for a trade deal, I don't think trade ever would have given him a deal, as because he's writing lit RPG. They showed zero interest in it until guys like him sold a bunch of books. So you know, if you think that someone like me, if I were just more patient and more willing to like workshop my work, and it would somehow then end up, imagine that 3 years from now I could have gotten a tour deal like that. Yeah, I would have been better off if that were the reality. I don't think it is. I don't think I ever would have gotten a tour deal or from anyone else to write the kind of books that I want to write, which is fundamentally a space opera. And it doesn't have the things that the major publishers usually like to see in their space operas. It doesn't hit the right themes, I don't think. I mean, I could be wrong. That's the other part of it. You'll never know, right? Like if I had spent the last 4 years workshopping and trying to find an agent, maybe. But you know what? Even then, I am writing a series that is meant to be very long. Right. And I'm, as a debut author, I am too old to spend 10 years writing other stuff and then get to my series. I'm 53. I literally can't. Right. I want to write a 20-book series. It's never going to happen in trade. I don't have enough years left. Right. So like my only chance to release my big fat series where I want to be the next, Jim Butcher, is to do it myself. I don't have another path. I think if you were the kind of person who could write something that Tor would pick up, I tell people absolutely take the deal, because the marketing impact of a major publisher is so much bigger than you could ever get on your own. I mean, Ryan Kyle can sell a lot of books, right? But like it's hard to get there. Yeah,
he's part of the 1%, which if we restructure that 1%, there is a 99% chance you will never sell as much as Ryan Cahill. So when we turn that 1% around,
sure.
And Ryan Cahill's young. He's my age. He's not 53. I don't think is old, but you're right. In 10 years, you and that's what you want to release. But my like rebuttal to that would have been, well, just. But be just like, we'll debut with something else. But then you were like, I want this out. I want this out. Like, I don't have the years to wait. And so I was like, okay, yeah,
sure. I mean,
I have a day job, right? I don't know that I could think of a book that I could sell to Tor, but I know that if it wasn't what I really wanted to write, I don't have the discipline to sit down and write a book that I don't want to write, just so I can debut, and then hopefully they'll buy a 20-book series. The chances of that are so remote that I would somehow find something good enough that I could sell it to an agent, then sell it to someone like Tor, and then have them say, oh, now we'll pick up your 20-book series. Like, the number of people for whom that's happening is basically zero.
But like, you don't think you could like find something you want to write that may fit in with that? Like for me as a writer, I find that sort of challenge really fun. But not everybody writes like me. So, I mean, like writing something that would fit into their mold, but still putting like what I want to say, my personal spin, my story, my voice on it. I find that challenge fun.
Good. I don't.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There you go.
I don't. I tried to write a YA. I couldn't get through the second chapter. It's not a voice I enjoy. I'm not saying those 2 chapters were any good, but I also couldn't keep it up.
I tried to write an adult book, and I'm pretty sure it came out as YA. Unfortunately,
I only write if there's something that I absolutely passionately want to read and it doesn't exist yet. That is the only thing that motivates me to write, because I have a day job. Like I said, I'm not. Now, if I were broke and I was trying to do this to like pay my mortgage, could I manage it? I have no idea. But I hope that doesn't happen. I hope my boss isn't watching this going, Joe, we'll give you that opportunity to test that. Please don't. I don't need that.
That reminds me of a conversation I had. It was actually on my podcast with Andrew Meredith, as a matter of fact. And I remember he mentioned, like, he's like, a lot of with writing, a lot of it is based.
But Trumpet
it's
Man,
kind of like the lottery. Or wait, what'd you say?
Oh, but Trumpet Man.
Oh yeah.
You don't remember that comment he left? He said,
yeah.
nitpicky reviewers or whatever, like authors just
I'm
ignore
like,
them.
what?
They're the demons and the marginalia blowing trumpets out their butt.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And those exist. Those are real.
No,
if you've ever lived in any medieval marginalia, yeah.
No, but I remember he said something, and if he wants to comment on this and say you're wrong, we'll sue you for libel. But I remember he said to the effect of a lot of it has to do with luck, from what I've heard, which is, from the sounds of it, seems true from what I've heard, because I haven't really tried it yet. I don't
luck in self or traditional publishing.
He was talking about traditional publishing.
How would he know? Is my question. Because he's not. I mean,
I think his wife Patricia works, or she worked as an editor for a while, so he might know from that. I don't know, but that's what or maybe he's just heard a lot about it. Because, like, what I know about traditional publishing, I just know from hearing authors I enjoy talk about it. How much of a pain in the ass it can be at times. But I mean,
I mean, published. I've heard published authors say it requires a lot of luck to get to where they are, in interviews. So it's not just hearsay, but I mean, a lot of it is is what you are writing. Is what you're writing match up with what agents and acquiring editors think will sell, right? And if anyone knows how. I don't know anyone who knows what will work, who can formulaically come up with a plan and say, this is what agents will like. I know it, so I can then just write it and then just go and sell it. If there are people who have that formula all worked out, I haven't heard them admit it. All right.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, though with self-pub, there comes.
I mean, you can ask the agents themselves. Yeah. They'll talk to you.
They'll tell you on their website like what they're looking for, right? Yeah. And then if you're the kind of person who likes to write that stuff or is good at writing that stuff, great.
Though
go for it.
Though I mean, with self pub, I'm not saying this is just like trad pub doesn't come with annoying crap that gets in the way. I mean, with self pub, it's not really a given thing. You have to. I mean, you put in a lot of money, you put it out, and you're like, oh man, who's gonna read it? As well. So there's that. So I'm not trying to. I'm not. I'm the mediator here. I'm trying not to say like one is better than the other.
I mean, if you're a self-pub author who already has a large audience, it's a very different equation. I know plenty of self-pub guys. If Ryan Cahill got a tour deal right now, it might not make sense for him to take it.
No, he wouldn't make as much money.
He might make. He might. It depends on the deal, right?
Yeah.
Because he would make less per book, right? He would make less per sale, but he might sell more. But it would definitely be like a question. He would have to figure it out and do some math. It would not be an automatically yes, take the deal. I mean, they must have offered Dungeon Crawler Carl enough money because he took the deal and he was selling a lot. So they must have given him a very lucrative deal. For someone like me, if Tor came to me and said, we'll publish your series, I'd be an idiot not to take it because I don't have that kind of audience right now. Then Tor, just putting my name in the release catalog for this week or this month, these are the books we're releasing. That's already way more public, more people seeing my name than, by orders of magnitude more than I get now. But yeah, again, if I thought I could get that tour deal, I would have been pursuing that tour deal all this time. Tor's listening, by the way. I have books. But that's really the question, right? Yeah. But that's really the question, right? Do you want to hold out for that? And you have to figure out is what you're writing, either what you're writing, the kind of stuff that's going to make it through that process and get you that tour deal, or is it something you can write that will get you through that process? And if not, then you don't have a choice but to do what we're doing.
Well, yeah, it's also I'm waiting for that Return of the Griffin copy, Joe, but I digress.
But I sent that to you. I don't remember.
I don't remember getting one. But no, I guess that leads to my next question, which is actually two questions in one, so I'll just go with it here. Do you guys think there is a conflict between trad pub and self pub? And should there be a conflict if there is one?
It depends on what you mean by conflict. I definitely think the rise of self-publishing has made it harder for traditional books to get out there because they want to set themselves apart from self-publishing. But I don't think there's as if you mean conflict like animosity, I don't think so.
Well, no, I mean, I've noticed there are people who've, had discussions, well, mostly on Twitter, and some of them have gotten pretty heated about, just like if trad pub is better than self pub or, yada yada. Kind of goes back to like what are the differences, kind of our first question a little bit.
Look, there are traditionally published authors who think that their work is inherently superior to anything that hasn't gotten a trade deal because they're ignoring so many of the factors that go into not getting a trade deal that aren't simple writing quality. And they think, oh, if you just wrote a book good enough, you'd have the same deal I have, because they're fooling themselves, right? That's not the case. If you had really high writing quality, but you're writing on a genre or a topic or a tone that isn't what trade wants, you're not getting that trade deal. But they like to ignore that. It makes them feel important and big. So, they look down their nose at the people like me, which is fine. I mean, I'm not crying about it, but
Joe, I didn't hear that. Last word I heard was tone. And then you died again.
Oh. I was just saying that, like, the authors who think that their books are just better than everything that's been self-published are just ignoring all the obstacles in place to getting a trade deal that aren't simple writing quality. There's more than that. Yeah. There's more than that. Like, concept. Mm-hmm. My favorite example of that is, like, there are books that just pitch really well. And it doesn't really make them better books, and it doesn't make them worse books. Doesn't make them better books. My favorite example, I love to bring this up, is Gideon the Ninth, which is lesbian necromancers in space. 4 words, but man, did that light a fire under the readership, and the whole genre was like so excited.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that about Gideon the Ninth. I knew it was necromancers, but you threw lesbians in there.
Lesbian necromancers in space, right? Or maybe it was lesbian necromancers swordswomen in space, which is 5 words. But that is a fantastic fucking pitch. It just sounds like everything we've been missing from fantasy and space opera. All immediately. That is so evocative. And it happens, I believe it's an excellent book. I really liked it. But that pitch, people who hate it. Okay, there are reasons to dislike it. There are reasons to dislike the series because book 2, it's not the point. Whether you like it or not, right? That pitch was phenomenal. Not every great book makes a great 5-word pitch.
There you go.
Right? I mean, I personally think my books pitch poorly, which you can say, well, you should have written a different book, but there are people who love my book. They're like, yeah, I wouldn't know how to pitch it either. So the fact that there are people who love the book means it's not a terrible book. It's very good to some readers, but I don't know any way to, like, in 5 words, get those readers to figure out who they are.
So, like,
whereas,
I'm trying here. Retired superhuman becomes space trucker?
But people hear that and they usually inferred wrong things about the tone of my book. And I get a lot of feedback saying something like, I thought it would be sillier, or I thought it would be more campy or something. And I don't know how to convey that at a pitch.
Yeah, I remember our conversation. I thought this would be like a little more like lighthearted than it. Well, it is pretty lighthearted for the most part, but I thought it would be like it was hard to explain.
It doesn't pitch well. There's no 5 words like lesbian necromancer swordswomen in space that's going to make my book fly off shelves. But if you have that, that's going to make a huge. I'm sure that agent got that manuscript and was like, "Lesbian, oh, that's going to work."
I didn't want to sound like I was like backhand complimenting you because it was it was
no,
a
that's
good
fine.
book, but I didn't want to make it sound like I was being like, oh, it like because it's fun, it's not like good or anything.
I mean, when we're talking to children, like we have to generalize things because they're young, they're kids. But in my like freshman creative writing class, I'm always like, guys, if you can't pitch it, you don't know what you're writing. Now, that's not always true, but when you're talking to 14, 15-year-olds, you kind of have to say that for them to sort of grow in their writing because they're children and they take things very literally, especially my demographic. But yeah. But I don't know if that's necessarily true, but that's just kind of one of the mantras that is thrown out there. Just generalizing for a second, but yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's a good point. It's just, I know there's mostly it's just kind of squabbling on Twitter, which that's kind of what Twitter's for nowadays.
People are so nasty on Twitter.
That's what Twitter's always been doing. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know. Hey, the querying crowd and the screenwriting crowd is so supportive on Twitter. I've never really run into anything with other. I mean, there was one thing, but I've never seen that much drama that people just tell me they see on Twitter. YouTube, a little different, but yeah, no, Twitter. I hear some stories about Twitter, but I've never inserted myself in it, except that once.
I have.
Yeah, you've seen it. Oh yeah, Joe, that one. Yeah, I remember that. Sorry.
Oh yeah. I think I know what you're talking about now.
I usually accidentally get myself in some Twitter wars, but usually every once in a while I stir shit on purpose. But it's usually good-natured and fun. I'll say that. Usually. Until it's not.
I accidentally started a flame war with it wasn't really, I guess it wasn't really a flame war, but it was like I accidentally started like a Twitter like debacle with Ethan Van Sciver once. That was
oh my god, you guys died again.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, Ethan Van Sciver? No?
I don't think so.
Oh.
He died, I didn't hear it.
He did not die. No, I just accidentally
No, I'm saying you guys cut out on my end. I didn't hear what you said. I accidentally started a Twitter something. And
I accidentally started a Twitter flame war with Ethan Van Sciver. He was the artist on Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run.
Oh.
And also he's basically become like Comics Gate over there because he's like Twitter, Anyway.
Hey, I had one a while ago, but yeah.
No, but it seems like Twitter is expressly for flame wars from time to time.
I get a lot of support from Twitter. I find writing Twitter to be a pretty pleasant corner of the world.
Yeah, it is.
For the most part. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're really getting a lot of hostility from writing Twitter, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Either that or you're Terry Goodkind.
If you're Terry Goodkind, you deserve it.
Yeah, I don't know about him, but no, I just got onto my Twitter and like literally, it means you're getting closer. Congratulations, Hi, I hope your week is great. Like, no, there's none of that vitriol here.
Yeah, I used to think it was I used to think it was kind of cheesy when I'd see like self-pub authors be like, "We're all in this together," but I'm like, you know what? It's kind of true. It's kind of true.
I mean, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, there's definitely like sometimes when you give praise when you shouldn't, but that's different than just encouraging someone to keep going.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If anything, that's the bad tendency, right? We have a lot of self-pub writers tend to glow about each other's works without exception, which is probably not. I say this, and this is probably not the best thing for us all. Oh, this book was great. Oh, this book was great. They're all 5 stars. I'm like, yeah, were they? Were they all 5 stars? Like, and I do it too. I'm guilty as anyone. because we're each other's friends. You don't really want to. You don't want to, like, if someone asks me to beta read, that's different.
Yeah.
Right. But the book's out and I'm like reviewing it. It's very hard for me to not be glowy because, you don't want to crap on your friends. Beta reading again, that's different.
Yeah.
That actually that actually leads to a question.
There we go.
I have here.
Look at me sitting here twiddling my
She's
pen.
like, oh yes, oh
yes.
She's like, it's like she dropped this.
Remember what I said about YouTube drama? This is where it comes from.
No, but I'll say my opinion on this first. But are self-pub authors treated differently than trad-pub authors? Which is my next question. Now, do I think so? I do think there's differences in like critiques, because like here's how I because I even struggle with this. I mean, I do criticism on BookTube. And
and I don't. I hold them to the same standard, which is why people hate me.
Well, yeah. Let me finish
before Go on.
Before we get into that. Now, generally, I try to make it a rule of like, all right, we're all equal here. Like, if it's a good book, great. If it's a bad book, I'll let you know. But I understand, though, at the same time, that, like, I think the difference comes in because, with TradPub, there's that sense, like, okay, this went through the process. I can be a little more critical on it than like, a self-pub. But, like, self-pub, it's I mean, I'm sure you can criticize and be just fine. Well, I know there's people who've gotten flack for that, but, I don't know. At least for me, sometimes the struggle comes from like I know they put a lot of time into it, and like it's not the traditional published thing. It's not like it went through a committee of sorts. And I'm hoping that makes sense. By the way, I'm just kind of spewing out words here.
Yeah, Britton, I don't think you explained that very well, but I do get what you're saying.
Thank you.
Like, I feel like they've already gone through that approval process. So, like, what is my opinion as a critique or as a critic, like, really even mean to them? They've already gotten it out.
Yeah,
they've quote made it, even though
it's also valid to just be like, I've even known self-pub authors like, you know what, man, I don't even read the criticism. I mean, they probably do, but they don't like, they don't like take like offense to it, which I know there's some who probably do. And I don't know.
Yeah,
again,
I mean,
I totally do.
I can see why you would, definitely.
But it's like, I try to put it like this. It's like if I just like
oh my god, you guys!
If I bash like a self-pub,
friggin' internet.
If I just like bashed a self-pub, it feels like kicking a dog.
Well, you've got two problems, right? One is
I didn't hear that. I'm so sorry, Joe. I didn't hear what he said.
Did you hear what Britton said? He said that.
No.
Oh no.
He said criticizing self-pub feels like kicking a dog.
It can, or at least that's kind of the struggle with reviewing self-pub at times.
There's two problems. One is you want to recognize that a self-pub writer is doing more on their own, so you may want to be more forgiving of things like some typos, because you recognize that for us to catch all the typos would just cost thousands of dollars worth of editing, and a lot of us don't have those resources. The second problem is, there's three problems. The second problem is your words have extra weight, because if you look at one of my books, like my most popular book has like 375 ratings. Whereas, so like if you one-star me, that's going to have a measurable impact. If you one-star Brandon Sanderson, like Mistborn, it's one of like 40 million ratings. It's mathematically insignificant. So you feel worse.
I did a video on this actually. Actually, Joe. Yeah, I called it like the raw numbers. So yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. I looked deeply into that.
Wait, so
and I can objectively say, because I've looked into it myself, that he's 100% right.
Wait, so like what's the third problem?
The third problem is because we're more accessible, you're going to feel worse. Because if you one-star Mistborn, you're not then going to be on a panel with Brandon Sanderson the following week, or he's not going to be hanging out on Matt's Sunday pub thing, or you're not going to have him on your channel, because you're not getting Brandon Sanderson on your channel. right?
Daniel Green did.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
Oh yeah, he's
right.
really big.
I know what you mean. I know what you
But
mean.
like
Well,
if you're
unless you're
Daniel
like Chris
Green,
Verrocchio.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I know what
yeah,
you
but
mean.
if you're Daniel Green, you might have a second thought about one starring Miss Bourne because you might get
Yeah.
Brandon Sanderson on your channel.
There you go.
But the booktubers who are reviewing the indie books who are not Daniel
Gotcha.
Green, right? They're they know that like the power dynamic's different. They might
It
be
is.
hanging out with me at Dragon Con. So I'm sure
Yep.
that makes some of them hesitate to one star the book.
Yep. I definitely agree with you, Joe.
Which yeah. Thank
Um,
you.
what I've said to like people, I say like authors stay out of reader spaces or whatever. Like I've said that. I I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily the right term for what I don't think should happen, but like just don't talk about people, don't talk about reviewers, don't talk about writers in a public space. And I that does happen in self-publishing a lot. And I mean, yeah, like who was the Illborn guy? Didn't something like that happen to him?
Yeah.
Where he got run off the internet because he said some. I don't know what happened. I missed it. But yeah, he basically got shamed off the internet just because people were so nasty to him. Um, and I don't know if he was nasty to someone. Like I don't know. I don't know.
I think he said some crappy things about a reviewer.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
people
and
got back at him. I don't know the whole. I knew the story, but now I can't remember it.
yeah. No, I'll go ahead and say it. It's happened to me. Happened to me 2 years ago. I think we know what I'm talking about. Most of us. Yeah. Yeah. So that is a big imbalance of power when it happens. Because when you've got a self-published writer, no strings attached, they can say whatever the heck they want about reviewers, and some fans will turn on them, some won't. If Brandon Sanderson had done to the reviewer what Daniel did or what happened to me, there would have been consequences. There would have been serious consequences. And all that happened to Daniel and the other guy was they left. Well, my guy didn't leave social media, but he like lost a few followers, and that's it. His career was not really impacted. But it like if you do something like that and you're a traditionally published author, what's her name, Kate Corain or something?
Oh yeah.
Do we know what I'm talking about there? Hey, there is a
I know what you're
silver
talking
lining there that
about.
those like yeah.
The one who was
Yeah.
review bombing everyone for.
Yes, there were consequences for her. Big ones. Her book didn't get released.
Yeah, I
And
know. That.
I'll just say I'm a survivor of the troubled teen industry. So there is a silver lining in that story that those troubled teen places, obviously, they don't work. Don't send your kid there. But
That still boggles my mind. That story. What was she thinking? But I digress.
She
was a
wasn't
good
thinking,
story.
I don't think. Yeah.
That was a good story.
But I don't.
I don't mean to laugh.
I think allowing making friends with self-published authors because they are more accessible to their fans and stuff does kind of create a space where reviewers walk on eggshells. And I think it also creates a space where other self-published writers feel comfortable coming at reviewers because that line has been crossed and continues to get crossed.
Yeah, I mean, I remember some of our conversations. I generally agree with you on this, Amanda. That there definitely should be boundaries between writers and audiences. Now, I mean, I see like
I mean, if
Should
you
I
talk to
hang up?
somebody,
what?
I'm sorry.
Should I hang up?
Oh no.
No.
I mean, what boundaries, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's a fair point. No, I mean, I don't know. It's that could be a whole video in and of itself. To be honest with you,
It could. But what was I saying? I mean, first of all, Joe and Britton, I'm talking to you guys as a writer. I've got my writer hat on right now, not my critic hat. So yeah, my writer hat. But a lot of booktubers who buddy in with self-published authors are not honest about the reviews, and I've had serious conflict calling people out about it because again, I care what happens to writers. I care what happens to the writing. So when reviewers go easy on or just don't review it equally to a traditionally published book and then deny that that's something they do, that's not fair to the writer at all. That's not fair to trad pub writers, and that is especially not fair to self-published writers, and they're doing more harm to the writer than I think they realize. It's backfiring.
Yeah,
And
That's
I
probably
think
true.
it's bad.
Oh no.
He did hang up.
No, I can still hear him.
What?
It's
Connect a device. I guess he unplugged his webcam or something.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
using his phone to.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, he must have gotten a call or something. But that's what the booktube drama stems from. I've called out, and maybe it's not my place, but again, I am an educator. I care what happens to people, especially writers, care what happens to their work, and reviewers aren't always honest. They're just not. And I mean, when you claim that you don't treat self-publishing, that you don't review self-published books differently, yet then you release a 17-minute video on how to critique self-published books, you are treating it differently. If you review books and you you read a self-published book and then just don't talk about it, if you don't like it, that's being different. So why, and also someone said to me, you don't have to hate on self-publishing, you don't have to sink that low. Why would it be sinking low to if you consider them equal? Why is giving consistently poor reviews, not changing my tone, being sardonic like I always am, why is that stooping low? Going at low-hanging fruit and self-published, but that's not when I read a terrible traditionally published book. Yet you critique them the same. You hold them to the same standard. It's just dishonest. And
Yeah,
I see a lot of that, and I think it does more harm to the writer than good, and I think it's very damaging.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can see where you're coming from, and I mean, I can only speak for myself here. I guess that's kind of why when I have authors on to talk about their books, I generally try to, like, I had Joe on not too long ago, talk about Wistful Ascending. We had a really good time. I enjoyed talking about Wistful Ascending with you. But, I guess more my angle is, like, I'll ask the author, like, okay, like, why did you do this? Because I'm curious to know.
I mean, that's an
necessarily
interview. That's different.
and being like, oh, man. Well, I guess it is kind of like an interview. But it is
Yeah,
kind
I
of,
mean-
but, it's, because, I mean, we're talking about the book, so, I mean,
Yeah.
But I think for me, that keeps where we can still, like, we still get along. We're still talking about this book, but just that distance a little bit in that same way. I don't know if that makes sense. Generally, that's what I try to do, but I see where you're coming from. I mean, there's definitely, again, I think that's where I think the difference comes from, is because, like, with traditional publishing, it as Daniel Green once put it in one of his rant reviews, this went through the process. And not saying that self-pub books
Joe, did you lose him? Because I just lost him and not you.
I hear both of you.
What? Okay, I didn't hear you. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on.
Where did I cut out?
The computer never does this. Of course, it's doing it now.
No, where did I cut out, Amanda?
Daniel Green said something.
Oh, Daniel Green said, this went through the process. Now, again, not saying that self-pub doesn't go through, like, a process, because, like, I'm, I mean, I don't know what I'm doing with it yet, so before you two, like, get after me about, like, what I'm going to be doing, I'm still figuring that out, but I did have a friend, or not a friend of mine, but a friend of mine who is an editor, go through my novel that I wrote. And, my point is, oh man, I just lost the point I was going to make. But
The point is, if you pick up a
That's
trade book, it's been through a process. If you pick up a self-pub book without having seen an honest review of it, you don't know.
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
You just don't know.
I it's funny, A Touch of Light almost caused me to have like an emotional breakdown a couple years ago. Like things were not going well in my life. And I read the
Sorry.
book and I really thought it was awful. And he actually, you can see me on video. I filmed a vlog and I'm sitting there with my guinea pig, just, you know, like bartender talking to the webcam because it just it really messed with my head. I was in a very bad place with my job at that point, and so I was like all stressed out. I was doing a weekend reading vlog.
Would the book just have troubling content? Like what happened?
No, it was just poorly written, and I
Oh.
had heard so many glowing reviews, and it was just not good. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't trust these people. I'm stressing myself out over books. And I think the title of it was "Failing This Vlog Made Me Question Everything." So, yeah.
And I think that's what you'll find, right? Like when Fourth Wing comes out, you'll see people giving it really critical reviews
Yeah.
because there's a lot of crappy stuff going on, and those people would be very hesitant. Like I'm like, they'd be very hesitant to do the same thing to me.
Yeah,
Because
they would.
Fourth Wing chick, whoever she is, I forget her name. I shouldn't call her Fourth Wing chick, but you know who the writer.
Yaros.
Right? She's making a
gosh.
ton of money. She's fine.
Yeah.
If Zara from Books with Zara goes and rips apart Fourth Wing, the
Doesn't
author,
matter.
it's going to be fine. But if she did that to me,
Yeah.
we're kind of friends. Like we tweeted each other. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm overstating my relationship with Zara.
You
We're
know
not
each other.
friends, but she knows who I am. I comment on her videos.
Yeah.
She comments back.
Yeah.
Right? We have a friendly relationship. She knows that, you know, if she ripped me apart the same way, that'd be kind of uncool. I guess. I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm not saying it would actually be uncool. Like, well, part of the reason I sent her my book was I was kind of hoping she would rip me apart because she does it so well. That part of me
Yeah.
is like, I hope she hates it because she'll just eviscerate me and it'll be the coolest video ever. But really, she would probably I don't, maybe not, but I'm guessing she would hesitate to eviscerate me with that same level of venom because she knows me.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm actually reading. I'm taking it very, very slowly. It's called Gilded Kingdom Seventh Born. Go buy it. I love this guy. He's a friend of mine. So go buy it. Just don't even buy it. But Gilded Kingdom Seventh Born. Put it in Amazon right now. I'm reading it and I'm trying very, very hard to be objective, and I just can't be because I he's my friend. Like he's an actual friend.
Well, is it
He's
good as well as you being your friend?
no, it's not that good. But like I've told him that it
so
reads kind of. There are parts in it I like. I mean, just look at me. I'm a mess, and this is why we don't do this. And I've had talks with him about like, yes, this is why you know, the pacing is. This is why this other person ripped you apart because of the pacing. But there is other stuff I really like about it. Like I like the tone. I like there's like tribal elements. I kind of compare it to A Song of Ice and Fire in that the world's really big. It's a medieval world. He also has some Ken Follett references in it, which I love. And I mean, it is very like it's making me cringe at the moment right now that I don't know if I can say I don't like it. I do like it. Like I like reading it. When I pick it up, I enjoy it. There's some really cool stuff in it. But does it keep up with something like A Song of Ice and Fire? No, it doesn't. I've told him that it reads like a first year creative writing student. So somebody who has potential, but no one's like gotten their hands on them yet to sculpt them into a great writer. So yeah, it definitely has potential, but it's not there yet. And he's told me certain people's Discord, he's scared to send their book to them because he knows they won't be honest. And at the end of the day, you know, if you really are friends, shouldn't you be able to be honest like that and still keep your friendship? I mean, my mom, obviously, she's my mom, but she reads my stuff. She'll tell me when it sucks, and I still love her. But she's my mom, you know, and I think people appreciate honesty more than you realize. I just read a book called Lying by Sam Harris, and his whole premise of that was you should never lie ever. And it's kind of funny because I'm trying to actually get better at lying and softening the blow to people, because one of the reasons I feel like I can be unpalatable is because I'm too honest. But I kind of found a way. I kind of found a way around it. Kind of found a way around it.
Is Sam Harris the guy who did The End of Faith?
Yes.
Nah.
He also did Free Will. Yeah. He's a neuroscientist. But his argument in that is that you should never lie. So he used an example of his friend asking him if he looked fat or something. And Sam Harris's reply was, well, I wouldn't call you fat, but if I were you, I'd want to lose 15 pounds. And his friend's lost weight since then. So even if it does, yeah, exactly. Exactly. So,
I mean, that's
but
saying
I think,
yes without just being blunt about it.
yeah, that's what I'm saying is I kind of found a way around it. I kind of recently found a way around it. But I mean, if you're really friends, I can see how you definitely take stuff like that personally. It's probably very similar to critiquing religion in a way too, because it's such a big part of who people are. It can feel like a personal attack, but it's not. And
if you're really friends with someone, you know when they're asking you a question, what kind of answer they want.
exactly,
They want you to be
exactly.
honest. Are they really asking you, like, if someone's asking you, do I look fat? If
They
a
want
man is
reassurance.
asking you that, they want you to say you should probably lose some weight because they know it already and they're looking for
Yeah.
confirmation and a little bit of an extra push. Sam Harris
There you
probably
go.
did the right thing in that place. But to think
Yeah.
from that therefore lying is never appropriate
There
is
you
a
go.
very Sam Harris thing to think, because Sam
Yeah.
Harris is a tremendous asshole
Yeah.
in general, right? So he's
Can
not
be.
acknowledging that the fact that in this case that was probably the right thing to do does not mean that you should never lie.
No,
It means that in that case he shouldn't have lied. And great,
Yeah.
it worked out for him. But
Yeah.
to generalize that you never lie, no.
Never lie.
If
No,
my wife
absolutely
asks me
not.
if she doesn't look good in an outfit, I always say she looks adorable. And if she wants honesty, she knows she doesn't come to me. She goes to like her sister
There you
or
go.
whatever, right? And that
There
is
you go.
fine. That is fine. She
No.
doesn't need that she doesn't need me to criticize her outfit. First of all, I have no
There
eye
you
for
go.
this sort of thing. She needs
Yeah.
me to help her to like keep her confident in our relationship. That's my job when we talk. So sometimes that means I lie, right? Like maybe no, I don't have to lie. She's very hot, but whatever.
Yeah. There you go.
But yeah, so I don't want to get started on Sam Harris because it's my
It's gonna explode.
my wife is Muslim and so half my family is Muslim, and it's a bad road to start down.
Yeah.
But-
There we go.
I thought your wife was like Indian.
My wife is from Bangladesh, but there are lots of Muslims in India, more
There
than
are,
in
and they're
like the
very
Middle East.
oppressed. They're very oppressed.
Well,
In India, they are not in Bangladesh.
Yes, not in
Bangladesh is
Bangladesh.
majority
There's
Muslim.
a lot of there's a
They're
lot of violence
oppressive
towards
in
Muslim and
Bangladesh.
Indian.
You know
Yeah,
that,
being a Muslim in India is very
stereotype
hard.
of the ignorant American. I feel like that right now.
Well, first of all, there's
yeah.
nothing wrong with ignorance. People misuse that word, and I'm going to quote Wheel of Time right now. Words are important, and the way we use them is important. There's nothing wrong with ignorance. Ignorance is not the same as stupid. When people say ignorant, I think they really should be saying stupid. Because if you don't know something that you've never been taught, that's fine. But if you are being willfully ignorant, which is stupid, that's not okay.
Oh, okay.
And Britain, I didn't know this stuff when I was your age.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I know a lot more about India now, partially because of my love of Bollywood movies and partially because of my wife, but that's all recent developments. When I was
I know that because of Slumdog Millionaire.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
That is a great film.
I've not seen that, but yeah.
Though I've had some friends from India who's like, it's not like that.
Yeah.
Which I go like, eh. But anyway, yeah, no, it's always like things are so complicated. That's kind of why we have these conversations, or at least that's why I have them.
Yeah.
I don't think the world's as nuanced as a lot of people think it is, but there's definitely nuance in a lot of things, and to make broad generalizations is not good.
I don't want to go down that road.
Humans are pattern-seeking creatures. Everything in nature falls within a pattern. We need that, just acknowledge that. But there's some things that are going to fall outside the pattern, so let's just not generalize.
that amen there. That's how I feel about that. That's why I on my reviews I try not to generalize things. But I digress.
Oh, I'm bad at it. I definitely speak in absolutes all the time, but that's probably because I speak to children most of the time too. So, I mean, yeah, I'm actually fairly honest with my students a lot, but only if they ask. Like when we talk about religion or politics and something, I respect them enough as people to give them an honest response, but I'm not going to advertise what I believe to children.
Which I mean, I don't want to go too much into that, but I will say that I think that's a responsible thing to do. No, I guess that leads us to another question, which Amanda suggested. Is the risk of going self-pub worth the reward that comes with it? And I wanted to be fair and say the same thing with trad pub.
I kind of feel like we already hit on that big time when we were talking about how it works. But I mean, Joe explained in really well why he went that way and why he's taking a loss and why he's okay with it. But when I see young people, sorry, Joe, when I see very, very young people like you, Britton,
Joe's like, oh man,
who have massive, massive dreams and potential, and you're what, Britton, 23, 24?
Yeah, I'm 23.
You can wait 10 years to get going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm told that.
And I'm 31 and I can still wait 10, 20 years. Mm-hmm. But Joe, you said you couldn't. That was a very honest thing. I commend you for that.
I could be dead.
Yeah. I mean, I could too.
Well, but more likely for me.
Yeah, there you go. But
playing the odds.
First of all, that was awesome that you said that. Thank you. And yeah, so what I always say is it depends on what you want as a writer. And so like Joe, you're okay with it and you don't have time to wait, and good for you. You followed your dreams and put them out, and I think it sounds like it's really working for you, that you're cool with it. But it does crush a lot of people's dreams. Yeah. And I've seen it do that to younger people, kid in his 20s who I knew for a while. He was on YouTube. He was getting tons and tons of rejections, and then he was like, screw it, I'm going to self-publish it. Not even a year later, he removed him off Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, I will admit that's another reason I started this channel was hopefully get some people over here, and it could help a little bit. But in case I do self-pub, I know I'm 23. I could, I have time, but I digress. Hopefully, I won't be like John Keats and like just get tuberculosis and die. That would suck. But it's probably not going to happen.
He's a poet, Joe. He died when he was like almost 26.
I know who John Keats is. I was shaking my head at the Britain getting tuberculosis. I think we're good.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen. But I don't think that specifically is going to happen.
Yeah, I think you're good on the TB. I think we have treatments for that now.
We do.
Okay, yeah, we sort of
maybe not in Oklahoma, but I'm just kidding.
Ouch.
Sorry, I'm a Texas fan.
Hey,
you won this year.
Hey, the Rangers won the World Series.
World Series.
So that was
Mavs, though. Ugh.
But
the Mavs still beat you, Britain.
I guess.
But we lost ultimately, so it doesn't matter.
We're
both losers.
I got the last question here, which is something I've heard, and I'm curious to hear you guys' opinions on it. Is self-pub the future of publishing? Because I've heard a couple of people say that, and I'm not really sure how to feel about it. And also, it's it's kind of it's one of those like real sexy like blanket statements,
I would say independent presses more than self-publishing. But as far as self-publishing being, quote, the future, that is a blanket statement that means absolutely nothing. So, that's fair. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's on the rise. I wouldn't say it's hit mainstream yet, but it might get there. Who knows? But there are definitely still a whole lot of people who are like, self-publishing doesn't count. I won't even pick up a self-publishing book. And yeah. So I don't know, will that completely go away? I don't know. But as far as self-publishing being, quote, the future, I have no idea. But indie presses, like not big four, they're a good way to go because what am I trying to say? It's like a good halfway point between self-publishing and one of the big four. So you do get more control to put out what you want. And it's kind of like you just get more control to do what you want, but there's still that intermediary there to kind of help you out. So if we say like I don't know, self-publishing, you start out flat on the ground. Trad publishing, you start out 3 steps off the ground. We'll put indie presses 2 steps off the ground, 1 step off the ground. If you want to shake a metaphor the way it is.
Self-publishing is not the future as long as until shopping habits change further, because fundamentally we don't penetrate bookstores well. You can find a self-pub book in a bookstore. There's such a large percentage of the reading public goes to a bookstore and buys something off the shelf or even something recommended by a person at the bookstore, and those people like Ryan Cahill don't reach. Okay,
I guess a better question to ask is like, do you think that self-pub, this sort of trend that we're seeing, at least on our side of the internet, I don't know.
Yes.
What it's
self-pub will be a larger and larger portion of the readership as time goes on. Young people are much more likely to do all their reading on their phone, and I can reach those people. Right? They are on Royal Road. They are reading a ton. They are spending a ton of money. Okay, but people my age don't know what Royal Road is. Okay, so that doesn't mean that in 20 years everyone will be reading on their phone, but a larger percentage of readers will be reading on their phone.
That's what we first thought when the Kindle came out, though. Oh, this is going to kill books, kind of thing, didn't we?
Right, but it did take up a significant amount of market share from books. There are people who can make an entire living on Kindle Unlimited. And that's just a portion of Kindle users, but you can make a living on it, like a good living, like a lot of money. Like if you write romance, you can make 7 figures a year. Doing that. But
extreme horror too, they make a lot of money.
Yes, but it's still not where bookstores are. So like Brandon Sanderson is not going to get rid of Tor because he can't kickstart his way onto Barnes and Noble bookshelves. And that's fundamentally, and that's still a large chunk of money for a guy like Brandon Sanderson. So I imagine more and more people like him will be doing hybrid, self-publishing some things, some niche projects. They'll self-pub here and there. Like the next Brandon Sanderson's probably not going to be everything through a major publisher, but they're going to be majority through a major publisher.
But
I told Britton this story. Philippa Gregory is one of my favorite authors, and I discovered her in an airport convenience store. It was the Boleyn Inheritance. I was walking in there. I was about to have a really long flight. I was like, oh, interesting. Henry VIII. Picked it up. I've read everything she's written. And that, sorry, Joe, will never happen for you unless shopping habits change. Like this was an airport convenience store. I was going in there to buy a water bottle and came out with a book.
The question is like in 10 years, are people going to be getting more? I imagine more people will be getting their books from Amazon than from bookstores, even compared to today. But it's not going to be 90% of book sales through Amazon instead of bookstores, right? So as long
there's
as
something about the experience too of going into a bookstore, cracking open a book, the smell of the book, the way they look beautiful on your shelves. Stuff like that. Like I really don't think that's going to go away. There are also people who have like really bad dyslexia where e-readers mess with them. But the biggest thing that's up and coming, I think, is actually audiobooks. From what I've heard, those are the majority of book sales. At least I heard that
audiobooks are more friendly to self-publishing than to traditional, because again, because think about it, you don't usually get audiobooks by going to a bookstore and picking an audiobook off the shelf. No. You order it digitally through Audible, which means that I can have the same penetration as Tor because I can be in every Audible browser tab in the country as
I
much
didn't
as
know they had. I didn't know they had books on Spotify too. That's pretty cool.
yeah. I can put my book on Spotify. I know self-published authors who are on Spotify, right?
Yeah, so do I.
So the more people read on audiobooks, the more advantage goes to self-publishing because
Mhm.
if you're self-published, you get more, same number of sales, you get quite a bit more money in your pocket. So people like,
Mhm.
people like that,
Mhm.
the more audio takes off, the better it's going to be for people like me.
Mhm.
It's the long tail, right? If you're having a shopping experience where the things that don't the things that aren't on the bestsellers list can still make it into your shopping cart, that's better for the self-published writers. And that means Amazon gives us a chance, Audible gives us a chance, bookstores don't. Because bookstores
Yeah.
can't stock all those books. I don't
No.
blame them,
No.
like they have to stay in business, but it's just the
Yeah,
reality of
definitely.
it.
It is. It definitely is.
Yeah, I mean,
And also, what I learned about digital books is libraries. A lot of them only have like 85 copies before they have to buy another one. So yeah, you're still supporting your author if you're going to the library or especially the library ebook, probably audiobooks too. But hey, you read enough of those books in the library, they're gonna fall apart and have to buy a new one eventually. So yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I guess that was kind of the main question is like, do you think, is it just gonna you think it's gonna be just like a fad and it'll fizzle out, or you think it's going to actually be
No.
like a thing that's going to keep coming for the future?
Oh no, it'll keep coming.
It'll keep growing
It'll
slowly.
keep growing, is what I meant to say.
I
Yeah.
think so. I have a hard time imagining how it would not keep growing.
Yeah, it will.
Right? You just have more, and it doesn't mean essentially going to be super good for individual indie self-published authors. We're seeing more and more competition between us.
Yeah.
You get a Felix Ortiz cover used to be sort of a guarantee of success. Now it's not because everyone and their brother tries to get a Felix Ortiz
He's
cover.
so talented.
He is.
So
I mean, yeah,
beautiful.
he's great,
Yeah.
but now probably in indie books you see like so much competition for cover quality.
I mean, you got you got the guy from the.
Um,
I'm sorry.
I do have a question, Joe. Are there only like two options really to like print your book kind of thing where like you could only get hardback or paperback just with a certain like material that whoever makes? Because if you pick up a self-published book, you'll notice that like they kind of all look the same. They all just sort of have like it's either glossy or matte or it's hardcover and you don't get like the texture on the title and all that. Or I just got Daniel Green's Kickstarter book in and it's not like that. It's like
So
bumpy
there's
and decorated.
there are
So
two. They're generally speaking for the smaller self-pub people like me. Most of what we do is through Amazon KDP, and it's print on demand, and there's relatively few choices. There's
okay.
in terms of paper, you can't have an embossed cover. The hardbacks
Yeah,
don't even have a
that's what
dust
I mean.
jacket, right? Because that's what Amazon does. If you go through
I feel like
Ingham Spark, you can have
okay.
a dust jacket on your book, but there are
Okay.
still fewer printing options. So what
Yeah.
people like me do is if you want fancier things like embossed,
Yeah.
foil, sprayed edges, you have to order a print run, right? Like
Okay.
when I put a book on Amazon, it costs me literally like, okay, I pay for the art and I pay for the editing,
Yeah.
but actually listing it on Amazon is free because I don't have to pay for like a bunch of books in a warehouse.
Right. Yeah.
It's print on demand.
Mhm.
But with a Kickstarter, you raise the funds and you actually go to a printer who is not
Okay.
Amazon, and there you can get the sprayed edges, you can get the
Okay.
foil, you get the leather, I think leather bound. There are
So that
different
makes
printers.
sense.
I'm not an expert on which printers do what,
Okay.
but that's how you get that.
Yeah, I really wanted, and I will read your books now. I'll read them. It's like I've
I'm
heard you
not sure
more
if that's good or
describe stuff
bad.
going on now, but you said it was like you're like I can't pitch it kind of thing, and I was like, okay, superheroes in space, no thank you. But hearing you more talk about it, yeah, I'm definitely gonna try it. But where was I going with this? Oh, Philip
Well,
Chase. I really wanted physical copies of his book. I have Kindle Unlimited. but they're so flimsy. I'm worried about it getting messed up in transport. Like
He's getting
his
broken
third
binding
book,
special editions if you want. You might want to
he
wait for that.
is.
Seriously?
Almost positive. Yeah, it was announced like
Yes.
recently. I don't know
Oh,
how.
nice.
I don't know
Yes.
any
Oh my
details,
goodness.
but
And you can buy
yeah,
those. You
bro.
can just straight up buy those without being on the subscription.
Bro, he's got so
I
much
think so. I
clout.
don't know all the details. I'm sorry.
But you got to be on a wait list for their
Oh, hilariously,
subscription.
I
And
accidentally got the
oh my
third.
god, I'm so getting them. But I'm so happy because that third one, the purple cover, is my favorite cover out of all books. But it gets beat up so badly. So I wanted to read them physically. I'm gonna read them digitally. But
Yeah.
those covers are so beautiful.
I got the
Yeah.
third
But yeah,
book by mistake.
what the
Day.
Return of Eden or
Yeah,
something so
instead of the
beautiful.
Prophet of Eden.
But yeah, I wanted to read them physically because they're so gorgeous. But I have a physical copy. My friends self-published books. It spent a day in my backpack, and it's just done for.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I think yeah, this you know, I don't get a ton of choices about like paper and stuff, and the lack of a dust jacket, I'm not thrilled with.
I actually really like naked hardcovers, but that's just a style thing. But yeah, I
like
see what you mean.
I like them both. It just gives you less you can do.
Yeah.
Right. When you have a dust jacket, you can put a different thing on the naked book, right? And it's kind of cool. I like them both. I'm not a. I do have books I've collected that are going to end up on these shelves behind me. I just haven't had a chance to unbox. I've only been here for 2 days.
I feel you. Yeah, well, I don't have a car right now, so my books are sitting in an empty apartment around a bunch of disassembled bookshelves right now. So you're a step ahead of me. You actually live where you live.
Yeah, that's the first time in a long time that I've lived where I live. But but that's what people do. People kickstart, and that's how they get the nice books if you're self-publishing, because that way you can fund that print run.
Yeah. So okay. So yeah.
That's all Kickstarter is. It's pre-orders, right? But they pay you up front so that you can.
And have you ever done a Kickstarter like for yourself? Okay, because I had I was wondering, like, it looks like everything's designed and all that, and then the crowd has to fund it, but do authors have to pay the designers, I would think, too? So that they would lose money that way, too, if it doesn't get funded. Then the designs, like, never come to be, but you've already paid for, like, the digital, like, mock-ups of them?
I don't know how people do that. That's actually a really good question because, for example, for my covers, I pay up front. I pay, I pay on delivery, actually. I don't even pay. My artist is not. My artist is wonderful, but he's not a greatest businessman. He should probably charge me like half before he starts, but he never does. He's also not cheap because he's really good. And so if I were going to do a Kickstarter for like my 5th book, I'd probably use art from the first 4 books and be like, if you want more art like this, sign up for my Kickstarter so I can pay for a 5th cover or something. But I don't know what people do. I think they probably, I don't know. I don't want to guess. I don't want to speculate.
Yeah. Gotcha.
But they're either funding it up front or they're getting artists to work on, promise of like profit share or something. I don't know.
Because I've seen images on there and they show you like what it's going to look like, and I know authors are not doing that themselves, so they must have paid somebody. And then if it doesn't,
there are a handful of authors who are making some pretty nice covers for themselves. Corey Ratliff, I think, makes pretty good covers. I can't think of too many other examples because I don't really pay close attention to who's doing. I can't. I have no sense of graphic design at all. I know that because if I make a cover, I'm like, this looks pretty good. And I put it on Twitter and people are like, Joe, that's awful. So I know for a fact that I have no graphic design.
Especially Matt. Don't stick Matt on books on your graphic
Matt has critiqued my self-made covers because I'll use them for things I'm giving away like for free, like my Christmas superhero story, which was a short. So I put it out for free. So I wasn't going to pay for a real cover for it. I'm like, if you don't like the cover, don't read it. It's free, like I'm not charging you. And Matt ripped me apart for that. It was pretty bad though. So he's not wrong.
Anyway,
I
think that's it.
Okay.
We did it.
We did. We got it done, and it was fun, at least for me.
Yes, we've done it. But it went really well. Thank you guys for coming on here.
If not for my internet kept. Yeah.
That's okay.
Had fun.
But
Yeah, my internet kept going out and made you guys repeat stuff a million times, but
My
sorry
mom
about
called in the middle.
your mom.
That was my mom, actually.
uh,
I
Oh
hung up on
no.
her. I hung up
Oh
on her.
goodness.
It's okay.
but as I like to do before the end of these things, if you have social media, feel free to share. Um, whoever wants to go first.
I just say go ahead, check out my new channel, The Dusty Skeptic. It's an homage to his Dark Materials, which if you have not read, go read. And I am also going to plug my friend's book, Gilded Kingdom, Seventh Born. Britton, I'll send you a picture of it. So hopefully you can put the picture on screen when you're editing. If you would, that'd be awesome. So Gilded Kingdom, Seventh Born, by CJ Urban. I think that's how you say his last name. But yes, Gilded Kingdom, Seventh Born. Go read it.
And I'm JCM Berne, author of The Hybrid Helix and Partial Function and various other things. You can follow me on Twitter at Joe Berne1. And you can go, I have a website, jcmberne.com. You can email me at jcmberne@gmail.com. You can search my stuff on Amazon. And I have a Patreon at JCM Berne, which is currently in hiatus, which was supporting my free weekly fantasy ezine that is indefinitely suspended now because it didn't work. But it was a fun attempt.
You have a really cool author name, though, I gotta say. JCM
JC,
Berne. Yeah, it's
thank
just so
you.
smooth. It's so smooth. I love
I
it.
got this very funny thing. So I wrote, my first book, and I was like really confident about the tone I wanted, the kind of writing style I
Yeah.
wanted, right? I was like totally like never had like doubts. Do I want this to be funnier or sillier? Never for a second. Then it's like, what name do I put on the front?
Yeah.
No freaking clue. I spent weeks trying to, those are my actual initials. That's where I got it
Yeah.
from. Like it's
Nice.
not
I
like,
like it.
yeah, I have two middle names.
Yeah, I was gonna say you
So
have 4 names.
yeah, no, but I mean, I really do. Like, if you look on my like driver's license, I really do have two middle names. So I was like,
Nice.
JC, and that sounds. I know too many authors who have names where I would remember them from like Twitter and be like, who is this guy again? Because their names just sound
Yeah.
more. I don't want to say common. I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, it's
No,
perfectly
I know what
fine
you
to
mean.
have. If your name
Yeah.
is John Smith, there's nothing wrong with that. But
Yeah.
maybe if you're an author, unless you're very lucky, John Smith's not going to stick in people's minds. So like.
Mm-mm.
JC and Berne sounds
It,
different.
yeah, it's smooth. It
Thank you.
flows off the tongue.
I
JCM
appreciate
Berne.
that.
Yeah.
And
I
then
like it.
someone was like, "Oh, and then you can be gender anonymous, so people like don't want to read books from a guy, they won't know." And that failed because I was immediately like all over Twitter and like on YouTube with my real face and like presenting as male. So I was like, "All right,
Yeah.
that didn't work out, but that's fine."
But anyway,
Anyway, thank you.
I am on Twitter. I'm also on Goodreads and Letterboxd, where I write reviews that are probably more coherent.
I don't matter
Well,
about.
I didn't do a review this time, but you know what I mean. And you can find me on Discord. I hang out on there. I'm really bad at keeping up.
As
with
do
all
I.
I'm really bad at keeping up with all the servers I'm on. But aside from that, I'm on there. So yeah,
Yeah.
this was fun.
What?
It was. I'm glad we did it.
Until next time.
See you
Take
guys.
care.